Once again, this is Fred Gwanko coming to you from our studios in Chicago with another edition of Bold Talk on Island TV. And as usual, I like to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, depending on where you are around the world. The silence from the Igbo leaders on the Nnamdi Kanu issue is really deafening. Today's topic is very serious. Even though I'll be talking about Biafra and Nnamdi Kanu mainly, but I'm talking about them from a totally different standpoint and realistically a very antagonistic standpoint. Who is really speaking up for Nnamdi Kanu and who is really speaking up for the Biafra cause? To the surprise of many, which is why this became a topic of note, you find that the main voices, recognizable voices that people will really listen to, that are speaking up on behalf of both Biafra and Nnamdi Kanu, are more of the Yoruba voices. It's more of the northern voices. The initial things you're going to hear from Wole Soyinka and Dele Farotimi are just going to be sound bites. The main discussion, especially the main discussion by Wole Soyinka, is going to come towards the end, and you really need to listen to that segment. The full segment, the full discussion by Wole Soyinka, the reason you need to listen is that Wole Soyinka, when it comes to Nigerian politics, is a very complicated person.
I said, and I wrote, I said, you cannot defeat Biafra. I said, and people thought I was merely talking of the, they took a very simplistic approach to understanding that. They thought I was talking about the battlefield, on the battlefield.
It's definitely surprising that the silence of Igbo politicians, big businessmen, Igbo clergy, those voices are scarily silent. And that's why I wanted to discuss this matter today. Among the faces you're going to see in this discussion will be Wole Soyinka, Dele Farotimi, Senator Sani from Kaduna. You're going to hear Showore, and an anonymous Hausa person that's going to talk not directly at the Biafran issue, but at the split between the Hausa and the Fulani when it comes to Nigeria and moving forward.
Look, what is the Biafran War? The Biafran War is essentially a war of self-determination. That's what it is. What you see happening in Bokos is the Biafran War. What you see happening in Kaduna is the Biafran War. Everywhere you see the Nigerian fighting the evils of the Nigerian state, what you see is the Biafran War all over again.
Folks, I wanted to bring you those sound bites from Wole Soyinka first and then Dele Farotimi, just to whet your appetite for what to expect in the full discussion by those two people, especially the Wole Soyinka discussion. If you're not patient enough to wait and fully hear Wole Soyinka's discussion here, you're missing out a lot. The reason is that when you listen to Wole Soyinka in that interview, towards the end, the most striking part is where he talked about the Biafra-Nigeria relationship from 1967 to 1970. And it will shock anybody listening to find out which position he alluded to himself being on. And if you fully understood the role Wole Soyinka played during the Biafra-Nigeria War, and if you really know what he went through, you wouldn't be shocked when he talks about where his us was, where his we was during those 2.5 years of civil war. In dealing with Wole Soyinka, we really have to understand that this man has been in the public eye for over 60 years. And it doesn't matter who you are, Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa, or whoever in Nigeria. If you've been in the public eye for over 60 years, there'll be one or two statements here and there that turns people on one side or the other off. But with all that said, I think it's hard to look at Wole Soyinka's full body of work over that 60 plus years and not conclude by saying that he's one of the most patriotic Nigerians when it comes to keeping Nigeria one equitably run, fair, united country. Don't take my words for it. Listen to his interview when you get to it. But before we do that, I need to pay some bills, briefly show you some of my advertisers. And while that's going on, you should take time and share the video. We need this video to go viral. The content is viral material. It cannot go viral unless you share it. We'll really appreciate it. In the meantime, let me pay some bills.
Azaga, zaga, zaga, azaga, zaga. Igbo Chicago, Unde chicos. Igbo Chicago, Unde baraba. Akubanite, yesera boya o. Akubanite, yesera boya la mabare zezia kele ndoma ndoma. Ogare no mandoma, dechi merezele. Igbo Chicago niile njano. This is for you.
Kaikene Fred Wankwo Ezudo Ezi Nwafo si Ajalebia, Publisher African Lifestyle Magazine Chicago. Nwafo ndị Chicago ji ejemba. Andoma nọ na Chicago. Ọkwankụ nọ na mba na-enyere mmadụ. Adela masị jeriwe. Ume nwanne ji ya chejilo. Ume nwanne jelo wa chejila. Hida, 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 hida. Whoa!
This is getting better. Let's hear what Ayo Ashe on Arise TV says about Nnamdi Kanu's defense of himself and calling a Nigerian federal government prosecutor a terrorist. It's how completely Ayo Ashe described the matter. She's not taking Nnamdi Kanu's side. She's not taking Nigeria's side. She's just being very objective. Why is this important to me? Because I want to hear significant Igbo voices take the kind of strong, objective positions that the Ayo Ashes and the Wole Soyinkas and the Dele Timis and the Showores and the... It's time for Igbo leaders to stop being wimps and pawns in Nigeria's game of divide and conquer. You can't call yourself a leader while you're playing part of the division and the conquering of your own people and pretending nothing is wrong while all these atrocities are going on.
Nnamdi Kanu has now called a federal government a lawyer a terrorist. Let me just take some tweets. I mean, your thoughts are on this conversation, whether or not, you know, he's accurate in describing his detention as unlawful, and the federal government lawyer describing him as a terrorist at this point for.
So he appeared before the Federal High Court, and that's Justice Binta Nyako's court.
Yes.
And by the way, she's mentioned that his lawyers shouldn't file before her, that instead they should proceed to the Court of Appeal. Instead, if they did come back to her again, there would be an abuse of judicial process, a waste of her time, lightly put. Now, I think it's a stretch of the word terrorism to accuse Chief Awomolo, who is on the government side in terms of the prosecutor, as a terrorist for not adhering to treaties signed by Nigeria. But I can also understand, because this case is now seeming to be like, it is appearing to be as if on the federal government side, they are not adhering to the rule of law, and that is his agitation.
Yes.
And this is what would also be provocative, whether you like it or not. Earlier on today, we're talking about how no matter how people have, there are people who are loyal to them, no matter, I mean, whichever way you view them. And this is unnecessarily inciting people to him beginning to get sympathizers. Yeah. If you want to take a man to court, you want to charge him then do it. And let him go through the process of the court, and let it not seem as if you are deliberately trying to keep him in detention. The reason for the refusal of his application of bail, and this time by the judge, was because he had jumped bail in 2017 when she had given him bail, when he had gone on bail. But beyond that is how they have stretched out and, you know, just elongated this case without a seeming end to it, and just keeping him in detention with him not having full course to his rights. This is where the real issue is. And during campaign season, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was asked as to what he would do about the Nnamdi Kanu situation, especially because he kept talking about how he would be a president who respected and adhered to the tenets of the rule of law. So in the interest of fairness and in adherence to the rule of law, it's not in personal interest or how a particular administration feels personally about a situation. At all points, the president must be seen to defend the rule of law, and it should not be partial to any person or institution. This is the bane of that. This is the topic of conversation. This is a critical factor with the Nnamdi Kanu situation. Whether he's guilty or not, let him go through the rule of law. Let the law apply to him. It should not be discriminatory. It should not be. No one should have preferential treatment when it comes to the rule of law. This is the real situation on ground.
All right.
Like I said, where are Igbo leaders on this debate? We've heard a soundbite from Wole Soyinka. We're going to be hearing more from him. We've heard the brilliant lady at Arise TV, Mrs. Ayo Eshe, brilliantly articulate what the situation is and how unfair it is to Nnamdi Kanu. And then next we're gonna hear Showore. The question remains, where are Igbo voices on this matter? Not Fred Nwanko's voice. I'm a peon. Not the noise making on social media. It doesn't get to anybody. Where is Iwuanyanwu? Where is Ato Eze? Where is Peter Obi? Where is Alex Oti? Where is Enyinaya Baribe that really did a lot during the 2015 to 2023 saga, but he's been silent? Where are the Igbo? Where is the Obion of Onitsha? Where is the Ezaro? Where are all the Igwes all over Igbo land? Where are they when Igbos need them? to address two things. One is Biafra. Give us fairness in Nigeria or let us go to Biafra. One is an Igbo son being unfairly detained by the federal government. God knows that I'm not a blind Nnamdi Kanu follower. I have a lot of differences with Nnamdi Kanu's approach, but that's irrelevant right now. What's relevant is that his detention is illegal and the man needs to be set free. He has done nothing different from what others who are walking the streets of Nigeria have done.
Well, what you must know is that Nnamdi Kanu is being held hostage on behalf of the famed unity of Nigeria. That's what it's all about. It's as simple as that. If you mention his name in certain circles, they don't want to hear it because they feel like he threatens the real estate called Nigeria. And his Igbo makes it worse because Nigeria's DNA hates the Igbo for attempting, in the 60s and, towards the end of the 70s, to leave a country they said is no longer favorable to their existence. But I keep saying, and I will repeat here again, is there any Nigerian out there in their majority who has not mentally seceded from Nigeria? Not many. That's why people are living in droves. Each time you get on a plane leaving this country is full, each time it's coming back, probably full too, but it is those who are coming back to pack their things that are coming back. That's the way I describe it. But the truth is that Nnamdi Kanu has been held hostage. He was abducted from Kenya, extraordinary rendition. The fact that he's kidnapped from Kenya could not be explained shows that any judicial pronouncement or processes after that is null and void. You cannot go and kidnap somebody and bring them before a court. And the courts have made it very clear, even up to the Supreme Court, that he did not jump bail. It was the military that went to his house to kill people, and then he escaped. And now you have brought him back, you ought to respect and restore his bail. That's what I told his lawyers. Why are you applying for bail again? Because the Supreme Court made all the pronouncements except releasing him, and I think it was because they were afraid. And that's why I said he's a hostage to this country. And like you rightly said, there are other people who have made even more egregious pronouncements and fought and carried arms in this country. And you have not treated them the same way because they're not Nnamdi Kanu's, their name don't sound East. And by the way, I must also reveal here that there are some Igbo elites who are behind this. Whenever there's a crime of conspiracy against freedom fighters, there are people inside and outside who are working together.
And that's exactly my point. Who are the Igbos inside the 5 states of Igbo land that are covertly or overtly working with the cabal? One, to keep Nnamdi Kanu locked up. 2, to sabotage any discussion that relates to restructuring Nigeria in a way that is fair to everybody. We on social media, we are tigers. We make a lot of noise. And the bigger problem on this matter is Igbos themselves, including the ones who are doing the right things. The Igbo attitude of my way or no way. You have IPOB, you have Masab, you have social media voices, many leaning towards IPOB. Then you have the intellectual groups that are pursuing restructuring in other ways. Everything is fine. Then you have the people who are pursuing, Igbos who are pursuing presidency. You have the intellectual groups saying nobody has any business pursuing the presidency of Nigeria under this evil constitution. You have the IPOB people saying the intellectuals are stupid and don't make sense and criticizing Peter Obi running for presidency, criticizing people asking for restructuring and saying it must be Biafra or nothing. The point is, we don't have Biafra. We are suffering in Nigeria. We are being marginalized. We are being oppressed. But instead of uniting and articulating our differences to come up to a point where we can clearly, in a civil way, agree to disagree on certain things, but keep our eyes on the prize. No, our egos won't let us. It's our way or no way. So you have people fighting for the right cause for Igbos in different ways, insisting on their way or no way. Then you have the Igbo pocketed cabal sabotaging everything that's going on. But we are not addressing that. We're addressing what the Yorubas did to us and what the Fulani did to us. The Igbo problem is the Igbo man. The I too know. The pull him down mentality. All the PhDs pull him down. That's the problem Igbos are having. And that's what we need to address.
Look, what is the Biafran War? The Biafran War is essentially a war of self-determination. That's what it is. What you see happening in Bokos is the Biafran War. What you see happening in Kaduna is the Biafran War. Everywhere you see the Nigerian fighting the evils of the Nigerian state, what you see is the Biafran War all over again. As long as the people's capacities are constrained, as long as their right to self-determination is constrained, the Biafran War will never end. Do you think it's by accident that the last constitution that was written by the Nigerian people for the Nigerian people is the 1963 constitution? It's not by accident. It is not by accident. It is the loss of citizenship that has placed us in a situation where military bandits have been the ones writing constitutions for us.
Well, the first thing I have to say is that I said at the time, and this was what got me into serious trouble, because they felt that by making such statement, in fact, it was singled out. By making such a statement, I was trying to demoralize the federal side and actively promoting the Biafran cause. When I said, and I wrote, I said, you cannot defeat Biafra. I said, and people thought I was merely talking of the, they took a very simplistic approach to understanding that. They thought I was talking about the battlefield, on the battlefield. Well, that was involved as well. Because when the people are determined, they are willing to sacrifice anything to preserve their identity. When they feel they are on a righteous cause, it's difficult to defeat them.
Yes.
If there's any, shall we say, military defeat, it's only temporary. The real issue remains unsolved. I mean, that's a lesson of history all over the world.
Movements.
It's a mistake keeping Nnamdi Kanu in prison. He had a right to pursue his cause anywhere he wanted. He was never accused of physically bombing any place or killing any place. Language, yes, was incited, no question at all about that. But you don't arrest, you don't kidnap people. And I think that, politically speaking, if they have any real charges against him, well, since he's in their hands, they should try him. All these technical postponements, delays, these tactics of just of avoiding the basic issue, for me, it's just counterproductive.
How would you describe the civil war that Nigeria went through 1967 to 1970? How would you describe it, Prof?
A waste, a total waste, a gross, costly error. It was an avoidable war. It was an unjust war. And I said so at the time, as you probably know. And I was appalled by the fact that we went to war so easily. I should explain that I believe very much in the right of self-determination. Otherwise, what was independence all about? What's the entire struggle for liberation on the African continent all about, if it is not about the right of people to determine their own destiny? And to find us fighting a war to preserve the demarcations inflicted on us by foreign intruders was for me an act of abject mental enslavement. It was surrendering our will and the readiness to go to war and lose close to 2 million people to preserve something which was imposed on us by total aliens. It was for me a humiliating fact. It is worse than a crime against ourselves. It was just a denial of who we were as creatures of reason, of volition, of self-determination. It made nonsense, in fact, of what I considered we were. So, and the consequences are still with us till today.
I know you've met some Chief Odumegwu Ojukwu you met him when he was alive.
Ojukwu, yes.
Yes, the General Ojukwu. What was how would you describe him?
A mixture. He was very conscious of his class. I mean, he belonged to he had an affluent father. He was a business person. He was sent to the best schools for education. I can't recall whether he went to Oxford. I think he went to Oxford. And when he came back, we met as young people. He was older than I was, of course. And at the beginning, I didn't even like him at all. And that's before I went away. He was very class conscious,
yes.
Rich, wealthy. He drove a sports car. Me, I trundled along on my father's ancient rally bicycle. I remember very well.
Yes.
And we used to meet at the same area. We had mutual friends.
Yes.
But when he came back, and this happened to so many young people. You can have a very frivolous, uncaring youth, and an issue comes up, which will affect you, and there's a transformation. And so he definitely had a sense. He felt a sense of mission. He became totally committed, to the Biafran cause, and he tried to rise to that occasion as fast and as determinedly as he could. I thought for somebody with that background and with those challenges, he didn't do too badly. He made some terrible decisions, I believe. He also had to accept responsibility for the entire scenario, going to war. After Aburi, there was a chance that the country could have moved a little bit more apart rather than stick with the kind of regimentation there. And all the leadership at that time, in fact, were culpable. But in my view, we on the federal side had a greater culpability.
Yes. So, you talked of the decisions he made that were terrible, sir. When you compare that to people like Nnamdi Kanu today, Nnamdi Kanu trying to resurrect that Biafra spirit, what would you say, or what would your advice to people like Nnamdi Kanu, the Yoruba nation, those people that are agitating for a split from Nigeria? What would your advice or suggestion be to them from your experience?
Well, the first thing I have to say is that I said at the time, and this was what got me into serious trouble, because they felt that by making such statement, in fact, it was singled out. By making such a statement, I was trying to demoralize the federal side and actively promoting the Biafran cause. When I said, and I wrote, I said, you cannot defeat Biafra. I said, and people thought I was merely talking of they took a very simplistic approach to understanding that. They thought I was talking about the battlefield, on the battlefield. Well, that was involved as well. Because when the people are determined, they are willing to sacrifice anything to preserve their identity. When they feel they are on a righteous cause, it's difficult to defeat them.
Yes.
If there's any, shall we say, military defeat, it's only temporary. The real issue remains unsolved. I mean, that's a lesson of history all over the world.
Yes.
And so when I made that statement, I was saying the Biafra, that notion, that concept, and all that it involved, both antecedents and the present, and also, in fact, including the future, seeing what the people who are determined to go on their own, seeing what they could become. That is part and parcel of the cause. And when you have that kind of binding combination of different causes, it's very difficult to defeat them. And so Nnamdi Kanu represents that concept. He is one of the younger generation who inherited a burden of defeat, of resentment, and a determination, in their view, not to make the mistakes of even their predecessors. They have a new will, they have a new understanding of history. The only problem I had with was the language which Nnamdi Kanu used over Radio Biafra. I listened to some of it, very incendiary,
yes, and
also disrespectful, I thought, of even his own people.
I do agree with that.
The language, I don't want to go into details, but all you have to do is listen to it. So what is represented, in fact, I used a certain expression in recent contributions. What we fought for, those of us who stood on that side, we fought for a Biafra of conscience. And for me, that's very critical. And people like Nnamdi Kanu should not, or IPOP for that matter, or MASSOB, whatever, should not act against what I call the core of our humanity, yes, which is one of conscience. So yes, because for me nothing surprised me at all. In fact, it just surprised me that it took so long that what you might call the Biafra resurrection to take place in terms, yes, of consciousness. Nothing surprised me.
Yeah. Would you say there are similarities with the Yoruba nation and the way they've been treated? So, for example, you have the way Nnamdi Kanu was treated, or is being treated. Nnamdi Kanu is still in prison, DSL jail. Whereas you have the Yoruba nation leader, he was released a few months ago. So would you say there are similarities or differences to these two movements?
It's a mistake keeping Nnamdi Kanu in prison, I believe.
Similarly, folks, here comes the northern voices, specifically the Hausa voices. Nigeria is changing. If Nigerians of conscience can just slow down and forget this my way or no way, I'm the only one who is correct, you don't understand, I can school you on Nigeria. Let's leave all that my way or no way, our way or no way. It's time to listen to what's going on in Nigeria. Change is possible if you and I look ourselves in the mirror and understand that there are other points of view, not only our point of view. Here comes some Hausa voices on the matter, while I continue to ask, where are the Igbo voices?
The longer Nnamdi Kanu remain in prison, the more the cause he is fighting for is being flourished by his own detention. Tinubu is a president that came from the trenches. He is one of those who fought for democracy and freedom. And I believe, if not for the fact that he went to exile, he could have ended up in prison with us in the 90s. Then someone of his own stature cannot be lectured about democracy or human rights, because we are all in the trenches fighting. So my expectation is that the problem cannot be solved by keeping the leader of the struggle perpetually in prison. You don't solve the problem. You can only solve the problem if you discuss the problem.
Assalamu alaikum. I am the obedient from Sokoto. I want to give you a history that you all know and the future that is about to happen today. We have this saying that all the North, especially our brothers from the East, they used to call us the Hausas, generally in the North. But we want to tell you something. We, the Hausas, we have differentiate ourselves now from the Fulanis. Yes, this is why I want you to stay. Pause first and share the video to go so that some people should know. The Hausa people now are against the Fulani people squarely. It is nothing you can do about this now. And you know, from the beginning to whatever it is, the Fulani people has been ruling this country, not the Hausa people. The Fulani has emirate everywhere around the north, not we the Hausa people. Now, there is something that happened that I want to tell you that is the future. You know, the Hausas, we the Hausas have given up on the Fulanis. And like it is, we are having some clash. I want to tell you this clash now is the clash of the titans. Because something happened within the Fulanis. We know we in the Sokoto state, we have villages. Some villages belong to the Fulanis and some villages belong to the Hausas. All the attack in Sokoto state, there is no one attack in the villages of the Fulani people. It's all in the Hausas. And now the Hausas have already opened their eyes. They are now aware of what is happening. There is one attack that happened last 2 weeks. I want to tell you that comes about all of these things. It is the attack that happened, the Fulani man and the Hausa. We the Hausa, we don't rear cow, we don't rear anything that, but rather we farm. We grow crops. Now the Fulani man came and then entered to someone's farm. This is the rainy season time. Entered to somebody's farm, ate the crop, and the man now plant something and now put a poison the cow. The following day, the Fulani kingdoms are waiting for him in his farm. When he came, they killed him at once. That is what triggered this unity now between the Hausa and the Fulani. And when you see us now, we are ready to change everything. In all the political parties in Nigeria, that you see a Hausa man going out around campaign, go and check. It's a Fulani man, not a Hausa man. A Hausa man has not ruled this country. We have been in peace before Usman Danfodio come to Nigeria. He has come and then divide us from our brothers, the real Nigerians, the Igbos, the Yoruba, and the Hausas. Now the Fulani has taken over everything from us. They have deceived our great-grandfathers. They deceived our grandfathers. They deceived our fathers. And now it is our time. There is a division now between the Hausa and the Fulani. And I'm telling you, next segment you see what we want to tell you from this video so that you understand that there is really a division. Like I was saying, we should try and share the video so that it will go viral. As you are listening, you a Hausa man that have listened to this thing, yanzu akwai bambanci da Fulani da Bahaushe. Ni ina tabbatar ma akwai bambancin kuma shine yanzu nan mun gane Fulani suna ta kashe mu a banza. They have been killing us. And we should not take religion something to take it like it is okay. Okay, if it is fighting for religion, why are they killing the Hausas? Why are they killing us, the Hausas? It is not supposed to be so. And that is why I'm telling you now. The Igbo, the Yoruba, the Hausas are the major tribes in Nigeria. We should not be left out. People will be telling you that Fulani Hausa, there's nothing like Fulani Hausa. It is Fulani and there is Hausa.
Now, let's conclude on this other perspective, another conspiracy theory, but another among many conspiracy theories that make a lot of sense. Listen to this.
You see, immediately after the Civil War, stupid money came into the economy. Stupid money.
From where?
From the collapse of the Biafra nation, because the war leaders, those who are prosecuting the war, they declared so many people dead. Some were really dead, and they are still collecting their salaries. They are still collecting their pay. That was the time you had all these emergency contractors. That was the death of high life.
How did that lead to the death of high life?
When, immediately after the war, the Olayas, the Rex Losses, all of them could no longer compete with these people who had cash and they were dancing to praise singers. Musicians became praise singers. High life music was not praise singing. So there was a lot of money. That was the time that high life was supplanted by the juju music, and the tradition grew on and grew on. So that was the time you had all these emergency contractors selling wedu, selling beans to non-existent soldiers, so to say, prosecuting war. That was the time several soldiers, especially war commanders, became multimillionaires. And they were the people who were patronizing the social joints. That was then you had one in Yaba, one so on and so forth, Miliki Sport and all that. All this grew in 1970. To a large extent, yes, the unfortunate Civil War. Those who provoked the war and those who prosecuted it contributed largely to the death of Nigerian morals. And we have not gotten out of the woods, even since then.
You've always felt that that war was preventable.
It was a stupid war. It was a cruel war. It was a war that ought not to have taken place.
If Gowon had apologized to the Igbos, as you said?
If he had apologized at that point in time, and also been able to rein in Usman Katsina and those who were belligerent, those who were murdering Igbo folks in the north, if he had been able to handle them. But the Christian, the Catholic, the catechist son that he was, he certainly was not able, because he didn't put himself in power. It was the Fulani oligarchy that put him in power.
So he could not handle them?
He couldn't handle them, because it was not really, he was in office, wasn't in power.
The Murtala Muhammads were in power?
Oh yes, so Murtala Muhammad would tell him off at executive meetings and say, use unprintable words on him, and he would just keep quiet. I mean, he didn't know how he became head of state. So
why was he scared of the Murtala Muhammads?
I think that was a long story, because he knew that it was Murtala Muhammad and his clique that killed the Ronsi, that took over power, and they knew what they wanted, and the gory nature of the coup, very bloody. Even though it wasn't bloody at the point of the coup itself, it wasn't bloody in Ibadan, where they arrested Ronsi and Fajui and killed them at Ladopo. But when you look at the camp in Ibadan and the camp especially in Abeokuta, where you had more than 80% Igbo officers, and all of them were slaughtered. And also at Ikeja cantonment, where Igbo officers were also slaughtered. It was obvious, therefore, to Gowon that even if they put me there as a figurehead, there was not much I could do to rein those who were perpetrating. And even number two to Ironsi, who was Gundikwe from my village, had to run away.
And that same clique is still holding on to the state, right?
Till tomorrow, but their days are numbered, yes.
Oh yes, oh very yes. Contrary to what many people think about what's going on in Nigeria today and what's been going on since the war started, their days are numbered. Whoever the proverbial they are, their days are numbered. Every day for the thief, one day for the owner. Nigerians are inching slowly closer and closer to a bloodless revolution that will bring sanity back to a country that promises to be a major giant, not in Africa, in the world. But it cannot happen until Igbos join in fighting for justice. Where are the voices of Igbos in this crusade to fix Nigeria? And yes, the topic was Biafra and Nnamdi Kanu. But realistically, those two names are symbolic. This is the fight for the Ijaw freedom. This is the fight for the Yoruba freedom. This is the fight that Sunday Igbo is fighting. This is the fight that the Hausas in southern Kaduna and Sokoto and all the places they've been killing them are fighting. This is the fight that the Edomas are fighting. This is the fight that the thieves are fighting. And this is the fight against the impending disaster that will happen in Edo and Akwa Ibom and Cross River and all the places who really haven't felt it so far, the way the Ijaws have felt it, the way the Igbos have felt it, and the way the Yorubas have felt it lately. This is a fight that concerns not just Nnamdi Kanu and Biafra. This is a fight that concerns the entire progressive population of Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, this is Fred Nwanko coming to you from our studios in Chicago with another edition of Bold Talk on LNTV. And until next time, good night and God bless.
Chukwu negaje esi nwanne m ekene ịlapụlụ ife niile na-eme wee bịa ka gosili na anyị na gị bụ nwanne Wisdom ga-adị ka nye gị maịkị ka ogobanya bụ egwu isili mmaksi ọ bụ na-etiri egwu a malụkwa malụ n'imego m ife ọjọọ wee sị gị nwanne m ife ọkụ na ịchọlụ na ngeme Wisdom onume ekene gị gbamanwụ iyo iyo biko lapụ nabasị zoro 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 Joy na bugwa Hausa Sokoto Ujembe nwilo Anu solo nwe manofia nara Onye nwuro zuru ike